There is something strange happening in your mind right now. Even while you are listening to this, a quiet part of your brain is making a calculation, asking whether this is worth your attention or whether you should drift towards something easier, something quicker, something that gives you a little hit of relief without asking much from you. That decision happens more times than you can count every single day, and most people never notice it. But those tiny hidden choices shape everything. They decide whether you stay with the hard conversation, whether you finish the work you started, whether you build a better life or keep escaping into distraction. And here is the truth nobody says clearly enough. That invisible pattern is slowly crushing your ability to do anything that really matters. Now imagine if that same brain mechanism could be turned around. Imagine if the very system pulling you away from hard things could be trained to move you toward them. Imagine if discipline stopped feeling like punishment and started feeling satisfying. This is not empty motivation or a fake smiling self-help fantasy. This is about how your brain actually works. Because once you understand what is happening under the surface, you will stop blaming yourself for relying on willpower that was never strong enough to beat a hijacked reward system. Your brain is always trying to answer one simple question: what gives me the best reward for the least amount of energy? Every action runs through it. When something looks difficult, uncertain, or slow to pay off, your brain pulls back. When something feels easy and instantly rewarding, your brain moves toward it with almost no resistance. That is not weakness. That is not laziness. That is ancient survival programming. Long before phones, streaming, sugar, and endless notifications, conserving energy helped human beings stay alive. But today, that same old wiring is trapped in a world that has learned how to exploit it. Look around at the life most people live now. Every app is designed to hold attention. Every snack is made to hit the brain fast. Every short video, every notification, every endless feed is built to make you feel rewarded without requiring real effort. So when you sit down to do deep work, and suddenly feel restless or desperate to check your phone, that is not random. When you promise yourself you will go to the gym and then somehow end up scrolling for an hour, that is not just a lack of discipline. Your brain is being pulled by systems that understand exactly how to trigger your reward pathways. Deep inside the brain is a system closely linked with dopamine, one of the most misunderstood chemicals in the modern world. People call it the pleasure chemical, but that is not the full story. Dopamine is more about wanting than enjoying. It spikes most strongly when your brain expects a reward, not when you finally receive it. That is why the chase can feel more addictive than the reward itself. That is why you keep refreshing, swiping, and checking. Your brain keeps telling you that the next thing might be good. That anticipation is what keeps you locked in. And this is where things get ugly. When your brain gets flooded with too many easy dopamine hits, it adapts. Over time, the reward system becomes less sensitive. The things that once felt interesting start to feel dull. The things that once felt manageable start to feel exhausting. A book that used to pull you in now feels painfully slow. A workout that used to energize you now feels like torture before it even begins. You are not simply losing motivation. Your brain is developing tolerance to overstimulation. Easy dopamine starts demanding more and more while giving you less and less in return. That is why so many people live in a strange state of constant stimulation and constant emptiness at the same time. They are entertained all day, but feel dead inside when it ends. Their minds have been trained to expect immediate rewards with almost no effort, so anything meaningful starts to feel unfair by comparison. Real achievement cannot compete when your brain expects comfort every few seconds. Here is the part that matters. The brain can be trained in both directions. The same plasticity that allowed distraction to take over your life can also help you rebuild your discipline. Every choice strengthens a pathway. Every habit teaches your mind what to seek. So the only real question is whether you are wiring your brain for distraction or wiring it for strength. That is where the idea of a dopamine detox comes in. The name sounds dramatic, but the principle is simple. You are not detoxing from dopamine itself. What you are doing is stepping away from the artificially intense sources of reward that have overloaded your system. If you stare at bright lights all day, normal daylight starts to look dim. In the same way, if your brain is constantly exposed to high-speed stimulation, ordinary life starts to feel lifeless. A dopamine reset is about lowering that intensity so your reward system can recalibrate. When you remove the endless flood of cheap stimulation, something powerful begins to happen. Your brain starts becoming sensitive again. Finishing a task starts to feel good. Exercise starts to give you a real sense of energy. Reading becomes engaging again. Quiet feels peaceful instead of threatening. You are not becoming some superhuman version of yourself. You are returning to the state your brain was meant to operate from before it got drowned in noise. Let me be honest with you. The beginning of this process usually does not feel good. In fact, for the first few days, it can feel awful. You may feel irritable, anxious, bored, or strangely empty. Your body may feel restless. Your mind may start begging for stimulation. And this is where most people fail. They assume the discomfort means something is wrong. But that discomfort is often the sign that the process is working. Your brain got used to a constant level of stimulation, and now that supply is being cut off. That is not weakness. That is withdrawal from a pattern your nervous system depended on. Most people quit right before the breakthrough. They run back to distraction because they cannot tolerate the silence between the old pattern and the new one. But if you stay with it, the cravings begin to lose their power. Your thoughts start to feel cleaner. The restless feeling was your brain trying to reorganize itself, learning how to function without being constantly fed cheap stimulation. Start by identifying the biggest source of empty dopamine in your life. Not the thing you enjoy most, but the thing that gives you the most stimulation for the least effort. For most people, it is the phone, social media, short-form videos, endless scrolling. For someone else, it might be junk food or online shopping. Whatever gives you intense reward without requiring real work, that is the first thing to target. You do not have to remove it forever. This is not about making some dramatic lifelong promise. It is about creating enough distance for your brain to reset. 3 days can open your eyes. 7 days is stronger. 14 days can feel life-changing. But removal alone is not enough. If you just take things away and leave an empty hole, your brain will fight to fill it with the old habit. So replace cheap rewards with slower, steadier ones. Read a real book instead of scrolling. Go for a walk with no headphones. Exercise without needing to be entertained every second. Write in a journal. Have a real conversation without checking a screen. At first, these things may feel dull. Your brain is still expecting fireworks. But if you keep showing up, your reward system starts learning that these quieter activities lead to something real. There is an important difference between pleasure and satisfaction. Pleasure is immediate, fast, external and short-lived. Satisfaction is slower. It grows out of effort, patience, and follow-through. That is why someone can spend the entire day consuming content and still go to bed feeling empty. Their brain was stimulated, but their deeper self was left starving. Satisfaction becomes far more rewarding than pleasure over time. It is the feeling after a hard run. It is the peace that follows hours of focused work. It is the quiet confidence that comes from doing what you said you would do. No notification can compete with that. Because pleasure gives you a hit, but satisfaction gives you a life. The science behind this is strong. Delayed gratification strengthens the parts of your brain responsible for planning, decision-making, and self-control. Every time you choose discipline over distraction, you are not just winning a moment, you are reshaping the brain that will face the next moment. This is not a one-time fix. Your brain will always lean toward ease if you let it. So the real answer is building a life where discipline is easier to start and distraction is harder to access. Your environment becomes everything. If your phone sleeps next to your bed, it will control your morning. If healthy food is already prepared, you are more likely to eat it. If junk food is hidden and your phone is in another room, temptation loses some of its power. You cannot depend on willpower while living in an environment designed to drain it. Delete the apps, use blockers, move the phone away from where you work. Make the bad habit inconvenient and the good habit frictionless. Every obstacle you place between yourself and distraction is a vote for the person you want to become. The people around you matter too. If everyone in your world is always scrolling and chasing instant comfort, that way of living starts to feel normal. But spend time around people who value focus and effort, and their habits begin to pull you in a different direction. Your brain is influenced not only by what you do, but by the people whose energy surrounds you every day. Some people hear all this and think it sounds miserable. But that question usually comes from a brain already trained to avoid discomfort at all costs. From that state, discipline does look painful. From the other side of recalibration, distraction is what feels painful. Distraction leaves you empty, anxious, and behind. Discipline leaves you grounded, proud, and in control. This is really about freedom. Right now, a lot of people think they are choosing their lives, but they are not. Their attention is controlled by algorithms. Their time is being stolen by systems designed to keep them reactive. Freedom is having a brain that works with you instead of against you. Freedom is being able to choose the difficult thing and actually enjoy what it gives back to you. Freedom is ending the day with satisfaction instead of guilt. So here is what to do. Make one clear decision right now. Find the biggest source of empty dopamine in your life and remove it for 7 days. Not forever, just 7 days. Notice the restlessness. Notice when it gets loud. Notice when it starts to fade. Notice what begins to return when the noise leaves. Because once you feel your own brain beginning to reset, you will understand something powerful. You were never meant to live as a slave to impulse and algorithms. You were meant to do hard things and find meaning in them. That version of you is still there, waiting under all the noise. The road back begins with one choice. Step away from the cheap stimulation. Let your mind breathe again. Trust the temporary discomfort. Because on the other side of that discomfort is a completely different way of living. Your brain is ready to be rewired. The only question is whether you are ready to let it happen.